This is Booked for Drama, where stories burn, hearts break, the tea is always hot and never a part two. Today we're diving into I Was Reborn in My Jealous Sister's Life. Let's go. Chapter 1. My sister and I were born mortal enemies. Before we even had bodies, back when we were floating souls waiting for reincarnation, we were already at each other's throats. She was supposed to be my twin. But sharing? It was not really her thing. She couldn't stand the thought of splitting the spotlight, so she did what any jealous soul would do. She kicked me out of our destined womb and stole the golden ticket for herself, the belly of the wealthiest woman in all of New York. In her mind, she'd already won. But what she didn't realize was that the perfect family she chose. It was a disaster waiting to happen. The billionaire dad? He was utterly obsessed with his wife, to a delusional, unhealthy level. The mom? She was sweet as pie and clueless as a toddler. And the adopted older brother? He was a cold, emotionally starved, and dangerously unhinged sociopath. In the end, that charming little psychopath broke my sister down, bit by bit, until she couldn't even stand on her own 2 feet anymore. Literally, she ended up paralyzed from the waist down. And me? I got stuck with a washed-up, third-rate actress for a mom. Yet somehow, I rose to the top. She clawed her way back into the limelight, and I went from forgotten child star to full-blown national treasure. Consumed by jealousy and hatred, she strapped a bomb to her chest and blew us both sky-high right in the middle of my awards speech. I died in the spotlight. And when I opened my eyes again, everything had changed. She'd stolen my place. This time, she forced her way into the womb of the very woman she used to mock, my mother, and kicked me aside like trash. This time, I'll be the one getting all the love and praise, she declared. I laughed aloud and hard. She had no idea I'd come back with a cheat code. A built-in hack. The perfect weapon for surviving that twisted billionaire family. The psycho foster brother? I could wrap him around my finger. That glamorous celeb mom she idolized? She was the real monster hiding in plain sight. My dearest sister, she sneered at me, full of fake sweetness, enjoy being the new freak of the family. Before I could respond, she shoved me hard into the underworld, diving headfirst toward the mirror that reflected a very pregnant woman, my mom. But I caught the mirror's edge just in time, gripping it tight and refusing to fall. From his throne nearby, the underworld's young and annoyingly gorgeous ruler, Killian Draven, catches us with an amused look. Is she always this dramatic? He asked, raising an eyebrow. There had been rumors about us in our past lives. We weren't just regular reincarnated souls. We were part of some twisted experiment. Killian ran a reincarnation trial, giving select souls a chance to choose their next lives. Naturally, my sister didn't care about the details. The moment Killian opened his mouth to explain, she cut him off with another one of her signature kicks and lunged for the rich woman's womb. I'm done being her sister. She doesn't deserve me. Villain had no choice but to adapt the experiment on the fly, allowing each of us to choose our own paths. He didn't wait to hear the fine print. And because of that, we never actually heard what Killian was trying to tell us that day. But deep down, I'd always felt like we missed something important. Lo, as I clung to the mirror, refusing to let go, Killian smirked. You're smarter than she is, he said, resting his cheek on his fist. So let me tell you what she missed. And suddenly, it all clicked into place. It turns out that in the updated version of his experiment, Killian had added 2 special conditions. First, he gave us each a rare ability, the power to hear people's thoughts. Not out loud, but in real-time inner voices, exposed like open books. Second, we were bestowed with once-in-a-lifetime beauty. The kind that could alter fates and end destinies. La wanted to see what we'd do with those gifts. Whether hearing the raw, unfiltered thoughts of a wealthy family would change the way we navigate that world. And whether beauty alone could shift the fate of a girl born into the dirt. Of course, neither of us knew any of this when we first entered the game. Looking back now, it all made sense. My sister probably figured out how messed up that wealthy family really was and started mentally dragging them hard. And they heard every single word. No wonder they turned on her. No wonder that deranged older brother snapped and dragged her down into the depths of his obsession. And they heard every single word. No wonder they turned on her. No wonder that deranged older brother snapped and dragged her down into the depths of his obsession. As for me, my freakish beauty earned me my mom's obsession. She polished me into the perfect product, the ideal idol. But the spotlight? It was a cage. And she was hell. I looked through the mirror at the actress's swollen belly. A smirk curled at my lips. Congrats, sis. You just checked into my personal nightmare. But this time, I'm not going down without a fight. This time, I'm using my ability right from the start, even if I have to do so from inside the womb. That twisted family? They're going to love me, worship me, and protect me. I gave the king of hell one last glance and said softly, "Thank you, my lord." Then, I let go of the mirror. I dove straight into the womb of the billionaire's wife. And just as my soul slipped into the warmth of her body, I heard a panicked shout echo through the hospital room. What? The umbilical cord is wrapped around her neck? A C-section would put my wife at risk? Chapter 2. Inside the delivery room, the wealthiest man in the country, Leonard Gardner, was absolutely losing it. He was yelling at the top of his lungs at the medical staff. "Figure it out. Save my wife, not the child. If anything happens to her, I'll make sure this entire hospital burns to the ground." Meanwhile, still floating in the womb, I let out a small, exasperated sigh. So this is my overbearing billionaire dad? Wow, he really does love my mom. He's so devoted. He's one of a kind, all right. My moms are truly blessed. Right then, as if someone had hit pause, both the raging billionaire and the sobbing heiress froze mid-freakout. They stared at each other, stunned. And just like that, I cracked a tiny smile. Bingo. They heard me. That confirmed the heart voice skill was real. The best part was that it had a specific direction. I could aim it and pick who heard what with complete control and total stealth. Back in our previous lives, my sister had this same gift. Only, she never figured out how to use it. Hers was set on default and broadcast mode. Every thought she had, no matter how nasty, blasted through to the whole room like surround sound. So when she heard Leonard shout, "Save my wife, not the child," she totally lost it. Right there in the womb. What kind of idiot says that out loud? Faking the whole devoted husband thing for show? Please, bet his mistress has already had a litter of kids for him. What a fraud. And of course, her toxic little tantrum turned the entire delivery room into a mess. The billionaire's wife, Judy Gardner, who is now my mom, was on the verge of losing her composure. Her emotions were already running high, and hearing those thoughts pushed her over the edge. The poor guy had to fall to his knees, swearing his eternal love, to help her breathe normally again. Then the baby came, and my sister was born. And the billionaire? He didn't even look at her. He clutched his wife like she was the only thing in the world and cried like a man who'd just seen his life flash before his eyes. "My love, you scared me half to death." My sister, of course, started her usual snark. "I'm your baby, remember? Not even a glance my way, and you're still putting on this act? And that saggy old cow actually buys it? What a joke." Someone handed her a mirror. She's not even close to being a billionaire wife material. Just like that, the billionaire's expression turned to stone. He ordered the nurses to take her away. And his wife? She spiraled into a paranoid mess, convinced this baby wasn't really a blessing, but some cursed, reincarnated mistress trying to seduce her man, a walking, squirming debt collector from a past life. She was hated before she even opened her eyes. But me? I was going to rewrite the story. This time, they weren't just going to like me. They were going to love, adore, and protect me as if I were made of glass and sunshine. A love-struck billionaire and a sweet, gullible wife? That's easy. I was built for this. I fired up the heart voice skill again. Why are Daddy Leon and Mommy Judy crying because of me? No, I don't want them to cry. I have to be strong for them. I shifted around in the warm fluid, just enough to face the direction of the ultrasound probe. Then, with the steadiest grip my tiny baby hands could manage, I reached for the cord wrapped around my neck. 1 loop, 2 loops. Slowly, carefully, I unwound it. All done. No more tears, Daddy and Mommy. The baby fixed the bad cord all by herself. Their eyes flew to the screen. They leaned in close, both of them wide-eyed and barely breathing. "Dr. Wilson, quick, look at the screen. Is the cord gone? Did she just..." The entire medical team stood frozen, their voices shaking as they stared at the monitor, as if it were a live magic show. "Mr. Gardner, Mrs. Gardner, this is a miracle. Your daughter must have an incredible bond with you. She just unwrapped the cord herself. She's not just a baby. She's an angel, a genius little angel. Congratulations, Mr. and Mrs. Gardner." My parents clutched each other like they'd just seen God. They were crying again, but now the tears were of joy. And of course, my dad, being the dramatic billionaire he is, didn't hesitate to make a move worthy of headlines. "Reward everyone. A $100,000 bonus for every single staff member in this hospital." The same medical staff who'd been sweating bullets minutes ago. Yes, they erupted into cheers as if it were the Super Bowl. 1 minute, he's threatening to set the place on fire. The next, he's throwing $100,000 thank yous around like party favors, all because of me. A not even born miracle princess. Just as the mood in the room began to calm down, an ear-piercing scream erupted from the next wall over. What do you mean, complications? Go find your top labor coach right now. If this delivery goes south, I swear I'll blow this shady hospital up all over the internet. That voice. Yep, no surprise there. The third-rated actress, Vivian Lennox. For a second, I'd almost forgotten she was here, too. Just like last time, my sister and I were being born at the same time with only a single wall between us. Even in our rebirth, we still couldn't stay away from each other. Chapter 3. Back in the womb, I smirked to myself and activated the heart voice skill, directing it straight through the wall to the delivery room next door. Hey, sis, you reincarnated before me. So, why aren't you out yet? Oh, wait, now I get it. Age before beauty, right? Guess that means I should go first. And just like that, chaos erupted. Ah, doctor, it hurts so bad. That damn thing is kicking me. Get it out, now. There she was, right on cue. My sister completely lost control. She started kicking and thrashing like a raccoon on Red Bull inside that actress's belly, screaming, crying, and having a full-blown meltdown. One moment, she was crying for her mom, and the next, she was cussing out the baby like it had ruined her whole life. Meanwhile, I took a deep, full breath while surrounded by amniotic fluid, rolled my neck slightly, and cheerfully thought, hang tight, daddy and mommy. Your baby girl's on the way. With a confident push, I braced myself with both hands and feet and propelled myself toward the right, landing softly on the delivery bed. I wailed loudly, as if starring in a film about perfect newborns. The whole room froze. The billionaire, the doctors, the nurses, and everyone stood there with their mouths open, staring as if I'd just done a magic trick. Even my sweet, soft-hearted mom was still catching up to what had just happened. She's already out, someone stammered. I've never seen a delivery go this smoothly. Congratulations, Mr. and Mrs. Gardner. You've got an angel baby. Mom gathered me into her arms, laughing and crying all at once. Leon, look at her. The moment I held her, she stopped crying. She's even smiling at me. My billionaire father's eyes filled with tears. He pulled both of us into a protective hug, his voice thick with emotion. She didn't want you to suffer. That's our little girl, so thoughtful already. At that moment, he named me, Lucy Pearl Gardner, Heaven's Precious Pearl. And because my dad never did anything halfway, he immediately announced the launch of a charitable foundation in my name and transferred 5% of the Gardner Group's shares to it. This is your reward, my precious daughter, he said, like he'd been waiting years for this exact moment. Inside, I was doing mental cartwheels. Meanwhile, my sister was losing her mind in the delivery room next door. She was so furious, she nearly made Vivian black out from the pain. In the end, they couldn't take it anymore and went with an emergency C-section. Word traveled fast. It didn't take long for the entire hospital to buzz with gossip about the miracle baby, born naturally and peacefully, and the debt collector, who had to be cut out while screaming in agony. As for Vivian, she didn't even bother looking at her newborn. Just waved her off like yesterday's trash and had a nurse carry her away. Meanwhile, I was tucked in right next to my mom, cozy and snug, placed there personally by my tycoon dad himself. I was beginning to drift off, wrapped in warmth and smelling my mom's perfume, when a shadow crossed over me. A pale, strikingly handsome face appeared above mine. Amber eyes, sharp jawline, expression cold and unreadable. Oh, I knew that face. Even from this angle, I recognized him immediately. That was the obsessive older stepbrother, the one who ruined my sister's life during our last encounter. I remembered everything. Ever since my sister was born, she hated him. She despised how he was always around and called him a leech, a freeloader riding on the Gardner name. She even mocked him to his face and behind his back, but he wasn't just anyone. He was the grandson of my grandfather's best friend. After Grandpa passed, my dad took him in and raised him like blood. And my sister? She relentlessly tormented him, humiliated him at school, socially isolated him, and wore him down until only steel and silence remained. Eventually, he changed. He became cold, calculating, and dangerous. But he also became brilliant. Straight out of college, Dad handed him the entire Gardner Group and named him CEO. My sister, who was spoiled and accustomed to having everything handed to her, finally realized what was slipping away from her. So what did she do? She panicked and made the worst move possible. She hired some men to kidnap him, or maybe something even worse. It backfired, of course. She ended up disfigured, paralyzed, and ruined. In truth, she never comprehended the most important rule when it comes to yanderes. You don't fight him, you win him over. And this time, that was precisely what I planned to do. Wow, big bro is gorgeous. I already like him. I looked up at him, channeling all the innocence I had as a baby, and reached out with both tiny hands, almost pleading for a hug. Immediately, something shifted on his face. His stern expression softened slightly. Those icy amber eyes flickered with surprise and a gentler emotion. Hick, hug, I said my very first word. Gasps erupted on either side of me. Did our little girl just call for her brother? Mom whispered, eyes shining. Lance, I think your sister already likes you, Dad chuckled, clearly thrilled. Go on, give her a hug. Lance stood there, frozen and still, struggling to process everything. Before he could voice any objections, someone gently placed me in his arms. At first, he held me awkwardly, stiff and unsure. However, his hands were careful and almost reverent, as if he were afraid I might break. And his eyes, which had always been empty and guarded, were beginning to shift just the tiniest bit. Chapter 4. Wow, he's so handsome. And he's my brother? His eyes are gorgeous, but why do they look so sad? Don't worry, big bro. With me here, you'll never be lonely again. The moment those thoughts reached him, Lance went utterly still. He had spent his entire life relying on no one, always polite, distant, and entirely numb to the loneliness that accompanied being unwanted. No one had ever truly seen him, let alone spoken to the part of him he didn't dare show until now. For the first time, someone reached into that cold, quiet space within him and ignited a spark. His amber eyes gradually softened, the edges were no longer sharp, but instead tentative and curious. Gently, almost as if he feared I might shatter, he laid me back in the crib. Then, without saying a word, he reached up and unclasped the ivory pendant from around his neck. The metal was still warm from his skin. He carefully fastened it around mine. This was the only thing my mother ever left me, he whispered. Now, it'll protect you. My chest ached with warmth. I knew exactly how much that pendant meant to him. That was the only thing connecting him to his mom, and he just gave it to me, no big deal. Across the room, the billionaire and his wife, who are now my parents, watched us with tears in their eyes, holding each other as if they had just witnessed something sacred. It was the kind of moment you spend your whole life hoping to experience. From that day on, Lance came to visit me at the postpartum center every single day. And bit by bit, the frost on his face started to thaw. Whenever I reached out with my tiny fingers to grab his hand, he'd freeze and quickly turn his head away. But the soft blush climbing up the tips of his ears always gave him away. It wasn't long before he was mixing my formula and feeding me himself, holding the bottle with stiff hands as if I were made of glass. From day one, I refused breast milk and only drank formula. Mom carried me for 9 whole months. She deserves to rest now. I want to be a thoughtful baby. Even stuck to a perfect schedule, sleeping by 10 p.m. like clockwork, and waking up by 7 a.m. if ever got hungry during the night. I pressed the nurse call button instead of crying or waking up. Mom. Unsurprisingly, I became the darling of the center. And once I realized how much everyone loved a smart, polite baby, I started showing off just a little. First, I started with Mommy and Daddy. Then I leveled up, calling the nurses Miss, and the other moms, Ma'am. The whole postpartum center lit up with excitement. Pearl's a genius baby. She's talking already? She's barely a month old. While I was busy stealing hearts, my sister on the opposite side of the center was beginning to attract some attention as well. Her features had started to sharpen, and her skin was as fair and delicate as porcelain. People began commenting that she looked like a doll straight out of a luxury boutique. And that was all it took for Vivian, my sister's new mom, to discover her motherly instincts suddenly. She cradled my sister like she was priceless fine silverware, softly singing lullabies as she rocked her in her arms. And then, to everyone's surprise, my sister started humming along. That sent the whole center into a frenzy. No way, 2 prodigy babies under one roof? One's talking, the other's harmonizing? What are the odds? During group events or checkups, my sister would parade around as if she owned the place, chin held high and full of pride. She made sure to shoot me a look every time, the kind that said, "Watch yourself, sis." This time, I'm winning. Finally, after our 1-month stay ended, Vivian couldn't get out of there fast enough. She practically ran out with my sister in her arms. I knew exactly where she was headed. She was about to visit her so-called sugar daddy, the man who had been financing her entire lifestyle. Just like in our last life. She thought now that she had his child, she had finally locked down her place. But she was in for a brutal wake-up call. The man took one look at them, slammed the door in her face, and tossed a wad of cash at her like she was a problem he was tired of fixing. He was married, and his wife came from a powerful political family, so he wasn't about to jeopardize that. He looked her dead in the eyes and said coldly, "Take the money and keep your mouth shut. Or I have 10,000 ways to make you and that kid disappear." She took the money but never let go of the humiliation. She held on to that rage, letting it fester inside her. Eventually, she directed every ounce of that twisted energy into raising her daughter as a perfect, obedient weapon. She smothered her, controlled her, and drilled her like she was some soulless machine. "She only lets me sleep 4 hours a day. The rest of my time was consumed with work, studying, dancing, acting, singing, and rehearsing like a show pony. She kept polishing until my shine dulled. The exhaustion chipped away at me, day after day. Once, I twisted my ankle so badly during a dance rehearsal that I nearly ended up with permanent damage. And what did she do? While I lay on the hospital bed, she opened a live stream. She exploited my pain and injury for sympathy, using it as a means to garner new sponsors and roles. She milked it dry to feed her own rising fame. By the time I turned 18, she looked me straight in the eye and told me it was time to repay her for raising me. She taught me how to please the industry's powerful men, how to survive in a world built on favors, deals, and fake smiles. Eventually, she reached her goal. She became a film queen. And I became a superstar. The country's hottest actress. But the cost? My body, my dignity, my tears. So when Freya, my sister, who had literally kicked me into that woman's womb, showed up years later in a wheelchair, dragging me toward my death like some tragic villain in a drama, she had no idea what kind of hell I had already clawed my way out of. Chapter 5. In my previous life, by the end of that life, I felt utterly empty and drained in every way possible, physically, emotionally, and spiritually. I didn't even have the strength to want anything anymore. Not even to live. But this time around, it was my sister walking that same path. The same one that broke me. At first, everything seemed picture perfect for her. The media crowned her the internet's little angel, and she soaked up the spotlight like it was made just for her. Meanwhile, I lived like royalty in the Gardner household. A proper little princess, doted on and spoiled absolutely rotten. Whenever my hopelessly in love parents got too caught up in their dramatic, PDA-heavy love sessions, I'd quietly slip away to spend time with my true favorite, my obsessive, emotionally reformed foster brother. Lance never minded. If anything, he seemed to look forward to it. He genuinely enjoyed how clingy I was, how I followed him like a shadow. Back in our old life, he was invisible in this house and treated like a ghost. A polite, cold, unwanted ghost. But now he had someone. He had me. And I had him. Unlike my sister, I never tried to isolate him. I didn't treat him like some lurking threat. No, I made sure everyone knew I adored him. I followed him around non-stop, chirping things like, "My brother is so smart," and "My brother's the best," like a broken record. Honestly, I embarrassed him sometimes, but he never stopped me. On stormy nights, I would sneak into his room, hugging a pillow to my chest and looking up at him with big, pleading eyes. "Can I sleep with you tonight? Please?" At first, he tried to keep a straight face and play the role of responsible big brother. But the combo of baby talk and crocodile tears was always too much. "Fine," he'd mutter with a sigh. "Just stay on your side and behave, got it?" And just like that, I was curled up in his bed. He'd gently pat my back until I drifted off, and each time, something warm and solid would settle in my heart. Safe. Steady. In the old timeline, he had a tough life. He was raised in someone else's home, never truly accepted, and always had to tread carefully. My sister treated him poorly. She bullied him constantly, made him an outcast at school, and even plotted to have him kidnapped, maybe even killed once she saw him as competition. So yeah, no wonder Lance cracked. No wonder he became cold, twisted, and dangerous. But this time, I did things differently. I softened him instead of hardening him. I reached for him, not to control, but to care. And somewhere along the way, I stopped pretending. I really did get attached. We were a team now. My big bro is the best. I'll grow up and protect him. That thought came from the deepest part of me. Lance paused, then let out a soft, rare laugh. "Silly girl, I'm the big brother. I'm supposed to protect you." Time flew after that. By the time I was 15, I was surpassing grown adults in almost everything. Music, chess, calligraphy, and painting, you name it. I was mastering it. And of course, I kept my heart voice skill polished and ready, using it behind the scenes to quietly help the family. I gave my billionaire dad a few nudges at just the right moments. Thanks to those little coincidences, he made some killer investments. The Gardner fortune multiplied. As for my sweet, clueless mom, I steered her away from a disaster that nearly shattered us in her last life. She had a so-called best friend who once tried to drug dad and seduce him. It almost worked. Their marriage nearly imploded. And who was watching it all unfold, as if it were a soap opera? My sister. She didn't lift a finger to stop it. She just let everything crash and burn. Not this time. Not with me in the picture. This version of our family only grew stronger, tighter, happier. One night, Dad looked at Lance and me and smiled so wide it softened every line on his face. With you two in the Gardner family, I can finally relax. I clung to Lance's arm, pouting dramatically. I just want my big brother to spoil me forever. I'll always be his little princess. The look in his eyes when I said that? It was fiercely tender all at once. That moment ignited a fire in him. From then on, he pushed himself harder, took on more responsibility, and quietly built up his strength as if preparing for war, because he had a promise to keep. He swore he'd protect me for life. Then came the headlines. Started noticing Freya appearing in entertainment news, receiving praise and admiration. The media called her the rising goddess of the screen. Vivian named her Freya Lennox, which was nothing surprising, and the press couldn't stop praising her looks and potential. And then, finally, I saw her again in person. It was at my 18th birthday party. She walked in with Vivian at her side, wearing a designer gown, with her hair and makeup flawless. She had all the right moves, the grace, the poise, the smile, but her eyes were empty and devoid of life. Still, when Freya spotted me stepping out in a simple, elegant dress, her whole demeanor changed. Her spine straightened, her chin lifted, and she strutted over like she'd just claimed victory on a battlefield. "Pearl," she sneered, her voice full of fake sweetness, "looks like you've been living a pretty pathetic life these last few years, huh? I heard the Gardners don't even care about you anymore. Everyone says all their attention is on that freak, Lance. And you? You're just some worthless reject they keep around out of pity." I was about to respond, but before I could open my mouth, a cold voice cut through the air like a blade. "Who are you calling a freak?" Freya's smug expression vanished. She turned and froze, face draining of color. And I knew exactly why. Because Lance was standing behind me, tall, terrifying, and completely unamused. The same Lance who, in our past life, had dismantled her piece by piece. The one who broke her body, crushed her spirit, and left her in a wheelchair. She never recovered from that. And clearly, she hadn't forgotten a single second of it. Chapter 6. Lance fixed his icy gaze on Freya, and the confidence instantly left her voice. I'm sorry," she stammered. "I was just joking." He didn't even bother to reply. Without giving my sister another glance, he reached into the inner pocket of his tailored suit and pulled out a diamond brooch. His movements were a little stiff, almost shy, as he leaned in and pinned it to my dress. "This is something I made myself," he said in a low voice. "Happy birthday, lil sis." It seemed like he wanted to hug me. His hands twitched slightly before dropping back down as he hesitated. I smiled and closed the gap myself, throwing my arms around him in a quick, tight hug. "Thank you, Lance. You're the best." His ears turned bright red on the spot. A rare smile softened his usual icy expression. "Good girl," he murmured. "I'm going to greet the guests. Mom and Dad said they've got a surprise planned for you later." As he walked off, Freya snapped. She grabbed my arm, her tone sharp and edgy. "That's impossible. Why is he so nice to you?" I frowned and yanked my arm free. My laugh came out light, almost lazy. "He's my brother. Of course, he treats me well. Doesn't your actress mom spoil you the same way?" I barely finished the sentence before a sharp voice pierced the air behind her. "You useless brat, what are you standing around for? Get over here and toast director Martin and the others now." Freya froze. All the color drained from her face. She turned her head slightly, her voice barely above a whisper. "Mom, can I just talk to Pearl a little longer? Just a few more words, okay?" Vivian offered her a sugary sweet smile, clearly performing for me. After all, I was the Gardner family's golden girl. "Fine, make it quick." Then she pinched Freya hard at the waist, out of everyone's view. Freya flinched. I saw the pain flash across her face before she forced herself to nod and smile. I sneered inwardly. "So much for your dream life, huh? You really managed to pick the wrong path in both lifetimes, my dear sister? That takes a special kind of talent." Her face turned bright red, shaking with fury. "You're the loser, not me. I'm already making my own money. I've got fans. People love me. I have a real future. I clicked my tongue and gave her a look that was anything but sympathetic. Ah, that's rough, dear sissy. Meanwhile, I was born a shareholder of Gardner Industries. I could lie on the couch all day and still burn through more money than I'd know what to do with for the next 10 lifetimes. That one hit hard. I saw it in her eyes. In her past life, the billionaire never gave her a single share of anything. The entire family avoided her as if she were cursed. She never found a moment of peace. Don't get too full of yourself. Once I win Best Actress, I'll have my fans drag you through the dirt online. I'll crush you under my heel. Watching her twist herself into knots, I couldn't help but sigh inside. Why is it that every time you oppose me, you never see me as your sister? Then, Freya leaned close to my ear, her voice dripping with venom as she loudly voiced out. It's your big day, Pearl. That freak adopted brother of yours is only putting on a front for everyone. Just wait and see. He'll shatter you, just as he did to me. He'll tear you to pieces and discard you from the Gardner family. She leaned in and hissed the words in my ear, then stormed off as if she had just revealed some grand truth. The thing is, she wasn't entirely wrong. Lance was acting, and he was frighteningly good at it. From across the room, I watched him mingle with guests, sip wine, and smile politely. But his eyes? They never left me, not even once. Later that night, after the last guest had finally gone, Lance casually made his way over to me, still holding that same unreadable half-smile. Without a word, he took my wrist and pulled me into a quiet, dimly lit private room nearby. My sweet little sister, he said, his voice low and teasing, you've been very naughty. Don't you think that deserves a little punishment? Chapter 7. His warm, wine-laced breath brushed against my ear, making my entire body tense. That signature cedarwood scent of his wrapped around me like an inescapable fog. But it was his eyes that got me. Usually calm and collected, they were different now. Intense, darker, deeper. My heart skipped a beat. I turned my head away fast. Lance, what did I do? He didn't respond right away. Instead, he extended his hand, gently tilting my chin upward with his long fingers so I was compelled to meet his gaze. I'm giving you one more chance, Lance said quietly. Tell me the truth. Are you hiding something from me? I froze. My heartbeat slammed against my ribs. I'm not. Really? He asked, voice still soft but sharper now. Then he took my hand and placed it flat against his chest. I could feel the heat of his skin and the strong, steady beat of his heart under my palm. And right then, something stirred deep inside me. A rush of emotion flooded my chest, rising behind my nose, hot, tight, and impossible to put into words. Oh my God, this is bad. Lance's chest is way too built. I couldn't stop myself from spiraling. My brain went straight to all those nights I'd crawled into my foster brother's bed without a second thought. At some point, sharing a bed became our thing, and my overindulgent, obsessive big brother never once said no to me. Not only that, he insisted on reading me the most ridiculous bedtime stories, like we were in some cheesy picture book. I used to roll my eyes and grumble, I'm not a kid anymore, you know. I don't even like these dumb stories. But he'd smirk and reply, you are still a kid. Every time you fall asleep, you toss and turn like crazy and throw your leg over me. As if he needed to make his point, he'd suddenly grab my leg and rest it on his annoyingly rock-hard abs. I'd then lie there, embarrassed and flustered, for the next 3 hours. Damn it, if he ever found out there's a full-grown woman in here who's lived 3 lives and is barely a year younger than him, he'd probably drop dead on the spot. They say yanderes are hard to resist, but with a face like his? Please, it's criminal. Wait, could he have heard that? No way. I was sure I had him muted. Still, panic bubbled up. I wanted to crawl into a hole and never come out. He let out a low laugh, his voice smooth and teasing like always. What's wrong, little sister? I haven't even punished you yet, and you're already trying to run? Relief swept over me like a wave. Thank goodness, Lance didn't hear that. I'd nearly scared myself to death. I straightened up and shifted gears quickly. Lance, I really don't have any secrets from you. The party's basically over now, can we go back out? He stared at me for a long second. His usual smirk faded just a little, replaced by something quieter. His expression turned almost unreadable. There was something sad in his eyes. But in the end, he let go. When we returned to the banquet hall, the nosebleed I had been holding in finally decided to start. Blood poured down, and I quickly tilted my head back, pinching my nose just as Freya approached, champagne glass in hand, her smirk already in place. Well, a nosebleed? Don't tell me your brother actually hit you. No sooner had she said it than Lance walked out of the private room, his face thunderous. He didn't look at either of us, just breezed past like we didn't exist. Freya's smirk deepened. I knew it. All that lovey-dovey sibling crap was just for show. He clearly can't stand you. She sneered, twisting the knife. 18th birthday, and not only are your billionaire parents Mia, but your precious big brother hates your guts. Tell me, Pearl, does your whole life feel like one massive failure? Who said we weren't here? The voice behind her was cold, powerful, and sharp enough to slice glass. Freya spun around and froze on the spot. It was my parents, and they were fresh off their honeymoon. The moment my mom saw the blood on my face, she rushed over in full-blown panic. Oh no, sweetheart, what happened? Come here, come with me, let's get that cleaned up right now. She steadied me gently, but her eyes darted after Lance, sharp and angry. That brother, how could he not be more careful with you? As she led me away, my dad stepped up, calm but ice cold. His eyes locked on Freya like a hunter sighting prey. Did you do something to my daughter? Even after 2 lifetimes, Freya's instincts didn't fail her. She flinched under his gaze, visibly rattled, and no. I didn't. You've misunderstood, sir. Then, she waved her hands frantically, trying to explain and stumbling over her words. Before she could say more than a few words, Vivian stormed over at the sound of the commotion. You little brat, what did you do this time to offend the chairman? Apologize. Without waiting, Vivian shoved Freya forward in a stiff bow. I'm so sorry, Mr. Gardner. My daughter's still young and naive. Please forgive her. My dad's expression didn't soften. And you are? His tone was sharp, colder than steel, as he asked again, were you even invited to my daughter's birthday party? The color drained from her face. No, they hadn't been invited. They'd bribed a servant to sneak in. Her mouth opened, then closed again as she scrambled for an excuse. My daughter and your daughter are good friends. It was she who invited us. They were chatting and laughing a moment ago. Vivian flashed a smile that didn't reach her eyes and shot a sharp sidelong glance at Freya. My sister understood the hint and didn't dare oppose her. She swallowed hard and nodded. Yes, sir. Pearl and I are friends. She invited me. Chapter 8. After a quick outfit change, I stepped forward, heels clicking against the polished floor, and called her out with a calm, clear voice that carried through the entire hall. She's lying. I never invited her. The room went dead silent. Every guest turned to look at me. I stood tall in a custom, diamond-studded evening gown my mom had picked out herself. The soft lighting caught the shimmer on every inch of it, casting tiny stars across the marble floor beneath me. Oh my God, someone whispered nearby. Isn't that one of those Italian haute couture pieces? I heard there's only one in the entire world. The Gardners must seriously adore their youngest daughter. My parents paid no attention to Freya or her mom. Instead, they each took one of my arms and confidently guided me onto the stage, right into the spotlight. My dad stepped up to the mic first and announced, "Thank you all for being here tonight. We gather to celebrate our daughter's coming of age. And as part of this special milestone, I want to officially transfer an additional 10% of my personal shares in Gardner Industries to my daughter, Lucy Pearl, as her birthday gift." A ripple of gasps and low murmurs spread across the crowd. My dad carried on, his eyes never leaving mine, as he said, I want her to know that no matter what happens in life, the Gardner family will always be her safety net. She has the freedom to chase her dreams, make mistakes, take risks, and live boldly because we will always be here for her. He smiled down at me, his voice full of pride. My darling, you are free. And your parents will always be your strength. The room filled with another wave of awe and whispering. She already had 5% from birth, and now she owns 15%? That makes her one of the youngest billionaires in the country. So all those rumors about the Gardners neglecting her were completely false. They were protecting her this entire time. I smiled politely, but inside, I was already activating my heart-voice skill and aiming it like a sniper at Freya. That's right, the whole Gardner family's been putting on a show to protect me. You guessed right, Freya. Lance is pretending too, but he likes me a lot more than you think. From her seat below the stage, Freya looked like she was about to explode. But before she could throw one of her little tantrums, Vivian slapped her hard across the face and yanked her out of her chair. What are you staring at? Stay here one more second, and we're both finished. They turned to leave, almost dragging each other out, until Lance appeared at the edge of the stage, calmly pushing a cake cart. He looked at me with that soft gaze only I ever seemed to get. Pearl, Lance said, I made the little figures on the cake myself. They symbolize the 4 of us forever happy. Then he picked up the knife, its handle wrapped in pink satin, and held it out to me with both hands. I felt a lump rise in my throat. My chest tightened at the sight of Lance. "Will you cut it with me, Lance?" I asked. He nodded and gently wrapped his hand around mine. At that moment, cheerful music played, and the lights dimmed a bit, creating a warm, dreamlike atmosphere. From above, pastel ribbons drifted down like confetti. Everything shimmered: our clothes, the cake, and even the air, making it truly feel like a dream. The crowd couldn't stop buzzing. "They're so close," someone whispered. "Wait, he's adopted, right? No blood relation?" "Yeah, no relation. But look at them, what a pair. And he's already the CEO of Gardner Industries. He's practically untouchable." I was still a little dazed by how perfect everything looked when Lance leaned in, his voice low and smooth right against my ear. "Ready, little sister? Let's cut the cake." Was it just me, or was he in an especially good mood tonight? Just a few hours ago, he was completely on edge in the private room. Still, I let it go for now. Right then, Freya lost it. She wrenched her arm free from Vivian and shouted from across the room, her voice high and cracking with fury. "Don't get cocky, Pearl. One day, I'll surpass you, and when I do, I'll crush you under my heel." Before she could spit out another word, Vivian smacked her again. This time, it was across the mouth. "Shut up, are you out of your damn mind? Let's go, now." Without saying another word, she grabbed Freya by the arm and stormed out, heels loudly clacking across the marble floor in anger. I stood at the edge of the stage and watched them go. Their silhouettes shrank with each step until they disappeared into the hallway. And still, I felt weirdly conflicted. This time around, it might be Freya who spirals even worse than I did in the last life. Back then, I had bent over backward for Vivian. I begged, compromised, worked myself to the bone, all to earn a shred of affection. And in the end, she still threw me away like garbage. But Freya? She was born defiant, loud, and proud. The kind of person who hates being controlled. And people like that, when they break, they shatter into pieces. I could only imagine how much harsher her mother would grind her down this time. Chapter 9. The entertainment industry was unforgiving. It consumed individuals and left behind the remnants. No matter how bold or passionate you began, this world had a knack for eroding that fire until only ashes remained. If it didn't break you first, disaster was always just nearby. Knowing Freya and how fiercely competitive she was, I had no doubt. If she ever felt herself slipping, she'd do everything in her power to pull me down with her. That's why I had to stay ahead and always be one step faster. Over the next 4 years, I studied abroad at university. During that time, Freya skyrocketed to success. She started landing major film roles and collaborating with top-notch directors. With her stunning looks and captivating charm, she quickly achieved A-list status. She even released several solo albums and built a dual career as a singer and actress. Her mom, who had once referred to herself as a washed-up nobody, went on to win a Best Actress award and stepped back into the spotlight. I documented everything online, capturing each red carpet photo and glossy magazine feature. Freya always appeared incredibly confident and untouchable in every shot. But all I could do was sigh. Even with all she had learned from her past life, she still chose the same path I did. The relentless chase of fame, swallowing every injustice to keep shining. While she chased the spotlight, Lance stopped pretending. All that cold, stoic older brother act? Gone. Using, just checking in on my little sister, as an excuse, he regularly flew out to see me. Every time someone tried to get close, whether it was a date, a classmate, or some harmless flirt, Lance would show up the next day. He would be polite on the outside, but his message was clear: back off. He acted less like a brother and more like a territorial boyfriend. Afterward, he'd always follow up with the same question, soft and awkward, like he already knew the answer. "Is there anyone you like?" It made me laugh sometimes. But mostly, it just broke my heart. After everything I'd lived through in my past life, I couldn't help it. I felt damaged and tainted, like love wasn't something I deserved anymore. Love had lost its sparkle for me. I just wanted to live quietly and safely. Lance was kind to me, but I believed I didn't deserve him. If he knew what I'd gone through, he would never see me the same way again. So every time he asked, I smiled and said, "No. I don't like anyone. I don't even want to get married." "Lance, would you take care of me forever?" A flash of disappointment flickered in his eyes, but he still nodded solemnly. "I promised a long time ago I'd protect you for the rest of your life. I won't go back on that. Due to my experiences and knowledge of the industry's darker side, I made a promise to myself. I would build something better. A company that actually respected talent and that uplifted artists instead of exploiting them. One that didn't play by the unspoken rules. For 4 consecutive years, I dedicated myself entirely to my training. I studied screenwriting, directing, and production, thoroughly mastering each of them. And when I finally came home, script in hand and purpose in my veins, I was ready to build something of my own. What I wasn't ready for was running into Freya the second I landed. She was surrounded by fans at the airport, with cameras flashing as people shouted her name, as if she were royalty. Honestly, Freya was even more beautiful than I remembered. Every move she made was precise, graceful, like someone born into the spotlight. She looked more like an heiress than I did. The fans had blocked off the terminal, almost creating a barrier around her. Then, from across the crowd, she saw me. Her face lit up, not with warmth, but with that smug, poisonous smile I knew all too well. Dragging her suitcase behind her, she strutted over, chin tilted high. "Pearl, did you see that?" Freya said, loud enough for half the terminal to hear. "All these people came for me. They'd do anything I say." She leaned in, her voice dipping into venom. You're just some pretty little accessory the gardeners keep around for show. What, no one here to pick you up? Don't tell me they finally tossed you aside." Behind her, the crowd stirred. Who's she even talking to? Wait, isn't that the gardener heiress? Damn, Freya really knows everyone. So what? Being born rich isn't a skill. Freya's way prettier and more talented, anyway. Of course, she's the queen. We love you, Freya. The compliments only made her stand taller, soaking in the praise as if it were sunlight. Then she looked back at me, her eyes cold. "Just wait, I'm going to win the Best Actress award. And when I do, I'll crush you under my heel." I didn't give her the satisfaction of a response. I rolled my suitcase past her silently and headed straight outside. Waiting at the curb was a sleek black Maybach, polished to a mirror shine. Leaning against it, arms crossed like a bodyguard on high alert, was Lance. The second he spotted me, his jaw tightened. Chapter 10. I tugged on Lance's sleeve, pouting just enough to get my point across. "Let's not talk about her today. Just take me home, okay? What did Mom and Dad have the chefs make for me?" The irritation in his eyes disappeared instantly. Instead, that familiar warmth took its place, the warmth he reserved only for me. "All right," he said quietly. "All your favorites. Come on, let's go home." Returning to Manhattan, I quickly noticed how much had changed during my years away. My dad, the legendary and lovesick tycoon who treated my mom as if she hung the moon, stepped entirely back from managing Gardner Industries. He'd handed the reins over to Lance. And what was Dad doing instead? Traveling the world with Mom. Eating, drinking, laughing, and living life like their honeymoon never ended. I couldn't help but laugh at the thought. Who would have guessed that the famously iron-fisted CEO would step down and spend his days drinking wine in Santorini like a man on a permanent honeymoon? But what really caught me off guard was how completely my dad trusted his adopted son to take over Gardner Industries. No hesitation, no backup plan, and just total confidence. After I'd been home for a couple of weeks, fully rested and back in my rhythm, I finally brought up the idea of investing in a film project. The entire family got behind it right away, no questions asked. With a casual wave, Dad said, "Go for it, sweetheart. Whatever you need, we've got you." I grinned and wasted no time roping him in as the honorary chairman of my new company, Starlight Studios. "Dad," I said with a playful wink, "with you leading the charge, Starlight's gonna be a flaming, unstoppable success." He blinked, clearly regretting how fast he'd agreed. But before he could wriggle out of it, Mom pinched his ear and scolded him. "You finally have a chance to help your daughter, and now you want to run off? Dream on." And that was that. Both Dad and Lance rolled up their sleeves and jumped right in, helping me recruit directors and actors for the script I had been refining for years. As luck would have it, director Martin West, the same man who had propelled Freya and her mother into stardom, fell in love with my script. He offered to bring his team on board, and I had Lance sign off on the deal. The fish had bitten faster than I expected. Now it was time for my revenge. Exactly 1 month later, Vivian and Freya were officially cast as the female lead and on-screen mother. They were thrilled. To celebrate, they offered to host a banquet for the whole production team. Dad didn't want to go, but the moment my eyes filled with, please, tears, Mom grabbed his arm and dragged him there by force. Lance, of course, showed up as my date. Vivian arrived as if walking a red carpet, every hair in place, every jewel perfectly catching the light. She still carried that aura, glamorous and polished, even more dazzling than Mom that night. Freya naturally sat right next to me, leaning in close with a smug smile. Pearl, surprised? Never thought we'd end up at the same table again, huh? She purred. My acting's so good, it even fooled that freak Lance into casting me. Amazing, right? The gap between us is shrinking fast. Sooner or later, you'll be right back under my heel. I picked up my wine glass, took a small sip, and let out a soft laugh. Oh? And how exactly are you planning to crush me? With those shameless tactics you're so proud of? Freya's face turned red instantly. You have no right to judge me. You used the same dirty tricks to climb up in your last life. Don't act so pure. We're both playing the same game. I met her eyes, my voice steady and calm. No, you and I are nothing alike. I fought it every step of the way. You, on the other hand, seem to enjoy it. Freya, purity and dignity don't come from a clean record. They come from your heart. And you? You've got neither. So if anyone here is shameless, it's you. I stood and walked toward the restroom. But the moment I stepped back into the hallway, my vision tilted. The world spun. Freya caught my arm, supporting me with a fake look of concern. Pearl, saying all that won't change a thing, she whispered, her tone dripping with sweetness. Let's see if, after tonight, you still dare to talk about dignity or innocence. I tried to scream, but nothing came out. My limbs felt completely weak, I couldn't even lift a finger. Still smiling sweetly, she helped me up the stairs to a guest room on the second floor. Once inside, she closed the door behind us and turned to me with a wicked grin. The door creaked open again, and several men entered. Leading them was none other than Director Martin West, the same man who had preyed on me in my past life. He appeared excited and eager, but also cautious. Freya, are you sure this won't blow up in our faces? Freya leaned in and whispered, her voice sharp as a blade. Don't worry, Director Martin. After tonight, no one will be able to protect her. Not even her dear daddy will be able to save himself. My heart pounded wildly in my chest. They weren't just setting me up. They were going after my parents, too? The men stepped forward, their eyes gleaming, their hands rubbing together like predators circling prey. In the corner, Freya stood quietly, phone in hand, already recording. Chapter 11. The very next second, the door slammed open with a thunderous crash. Lance kicked it in as if he were about to tear the whole house down, eyes bloodshot, fury radiating off him in waves. Before anyone could react, he stormed forward and knocked Freya clear across the room with one clean, brutal blow. Behind him, his bodyguards poured in, fast and lethal. In seconds, they had every man in the room pinned down like it was a tactical operation. I stumbled forward, straight into Lance's arms. My voice shook, but I tried to keep it steady, tried to calm him down. Lance, it's okay. I didn't actually drink the wine. Before I could finish, he leaned down and pressed a kiss to my forehead. It was soft, gentle, and so warm. For a second, everything just blanked out. My brain stopped working. Pearl, he said, voice rough and low, promise me that you'll never put yourself in danger like that again. I can't stand the thought of something happening to you. I really can't. My face went red hot. I stared down at the floor, flustered, heart racing. Then I gasped, eyes wide. Oh, Dad, go save Dad, Lance. But before Lance could even turn, my father's voice called out casually from the hallway, cool and amused like he hadn't just narrowly escaped a setup. Sweetheart, Dad's fine. You wanna know what your mom's doing right now? Apparently, Vivian also tried to drug him. Sharp as ever, my dad only pretended he drank it because he saw through the trap from a mile off. Meanwhile, my mom burst in immediately afterward, back up in tow, completely blindsiding Vivian. She didn't just confront her, she slugged her, swinging fully and slapping her hard. Then Mom pulled out her phone and even recorded Vivian's confession on video. Vivian revealed everything, including how Freya convinced her to go along with the plan, promising that if she pulled it off, she'd finally become the billionaire's wife. But Freya had gone even further. She didn't just want to ruin my life, she aimed to replace me entirely, to take my place as the gardener's daughter, and to erase me completely. Her plan was cruelly clever. Once the truth was revealed, she knew my innocent, kind-hearted mom would demand a divorce. My dad, always the hopeless romantic, would agree, blaming himself and accepting responsibility. As a result, I would be ruined, and they could manipulate public opinion to pressure my dad into disowning me. A clean sweep. One strike. End of story. Unfortunately for them, one wrong step, and the whole game collapsed. That night, Freya, Vivian, and the sleazy director were all arrested and hauled off to the station. Only later did I learn that Lance had known everything from the start. He had been silently watching me for years, tracking, protecting, waiting. He never said a word, never tried to stop me. When he found out that I planned to put myself at risk and lure them into a trap, he secretly informed my parents. The three of them worked together behind the scenes, planning every detail to ensure my safety. To end this once and for all. Sweetheart, Dad said with a proud little grin, I didn't want to stay out of it. That whole, hands-off, thing? Pure acting. So, how'd I do? Mom rolled her eyes and yanked his ear. Terrible. If it weren't for my performance, you would have blown the whole operation. I looked at my parents, who'd done all of this for me, and my chest tightened. My throat burned, and I felt it coming before I could stop it. Tears filled my eyes. Lance was there instantly, wiping them away with gentle fingers. I'm sorry, Pearl, he said, his voice full of guilt. Are you mad that I kept tabs on you? That I didn't tell you? It's my fault. I swear, I won't do it again. I gave him my best fake pout and tilted my head. All right, confession time. I want the whole story. When exactly did you start spying on me? He lowered his gaze, sheepish. Your 18th birthday, Lance said quietly. The brooch I gave you. I slipped a tracker inside it. You were about to leave for school overseas, and I just wanted to protect you. That's all. My heart stopped. I froze. Wait, does he know? Does he know I reincarnated? Do Mom and Dad know, too? Does he think I'm tainted? That I'm unworthy? Lance must have noticed the panic on my face, because he stepped in closer, his voice calm and gentle, like he could hear every single thought racing through my mind. Don't worry, Pearl, he said. Mom and Dad only know that Freya was targeting you. I never told them anything else. He paused, his gaze meeting mine with quiet intensity. To me, you've always been the purest, kindest soul. You're the one I've wanted to protect more than anyone. My only regret is not having met you sooner in our previous life. If I had, maybe you wouldn't have had to suffer like that. Then he pulled me into his arms and held me close, his warmth surrounding me completely. I could feel his breath near my ear, steady and comforting. And right then, I let it all go. The pain I had kept buried. The shame I thought I had to carry alone, the weight I'd dragged around for years. I broke down in his arms, crying like a child who had finally come home. That look he gave me in the private room now made sense, and the way he seemed to know already was unmistakable. Of course, he did. Lance always knew. Chapter 12. Whenever I denied it, Lance would look at me with a soft, hurt expression in his eyes. He must have thought I was being nice out of obligation or that I was playing some long con, pretending to care as part of a larger scheme. Now, just thinking about it made my chest tighten. I grabbed a fistful of his shirt, holding on like he might disappear if I let go. My eyes were hot and red, but I looked straight up at him. Lance, I really do like you. I mean it from the bottom of my heart. I want to be good to you. That's all. He didn't say anything right away. He just smiled, warm and quiet, and wrapped his arms around me. I know, Lance murmured. In the days that followed, the fallout was massive. Freya and Vivian were convicted of drugging and organizing a group sexual assault. It was widely covered in the news. The directors who colluded with them also faced attempted rape charges and were imprisoned. In an industry where your name was everything, theirs had become worthless overnight. They were finished. No redemption arcs. No PR spin. Just ruin. And Lance made sure of it. He purchased the top trending hashtags and highlighted their scandal on the front page of every social media platform for weeks. He aimed for the world to understand exactly what they attempted to do. People were furious. The public exploded with outrage. Sympathy for me poured in like floodwater. I was no longer just a name. They saw me as a survivor, the nearly victimized daughter of the powerful Gardner family. Some folks even started shipping me with Lance. I can't be the only one who thinks they're perfect for each other, right? Exactly. No blood relation, super handsome, and fiercely protective. I'm shipping this so hard. The comments were insane and weirdly sweet. Even Lance's icy expression softened slightly as he read those comments. 3 years later, the script I had poured my whole heart into finally hit the big screen. It blew up. Total box office smash. It made billions. Starlight Studios was no longer the underdog. It was the name of the industry. Meanwhile, Dad had slipped into full soft retiree mode. All he cared about now was enjoying. His eyes never left mine as he held it out. So please, he said softly, let me spend the rest of my life keeping that promise. Will you marry me? I looked down at this man who, in my past life, had been cold, obsessive, and terrifying. And now? Still obsessive, still intense, still way too overprotective, but every single part of him was mine. Chapter 13. Lance and I got mentored on a private island that he psychosed in my name, tucked away in a Caribbean paradise. With endless blue skies, waves lapping against the white sand, and palm trees swayed gently in the wind. I wore a custom diamond snowstead gown designed by my mom, in collaboration with one of the world's top fashion houses. It speeded with every step, as if I were stitched into a constellation. Dad walked me down the aisle, step by step, toward the man waiting for me under a flower-draped arch. There, in front of our closest family and friends, Lance took my hand, slipped on the ring, and promised me forever both in life and in death. And just like that, the internet went insane. People were obsessed with blessings, videos, fan edits, and memes, but far from all that happiness, inside a cold, gray prison cell, Freya finally broke down. The moment she saw the wedding photos, she tried to take her own life. Right before she lost consciousness, she screamed like someone possessed, "I didn't lose, Pearl. If I just had one more chance, I'd win." But she never realized that there wouldn't be another chance. On our wedding night, Lance was no longer the calm, self-controlled brother the world thought they knew. It was as if something inside him finally broke, making him yearn to be one with me. He needed to prove our bond was real, that I was his, and he was mine. "Pearl," he whispered, his voice husky and rough around the edges, "did you know that night on your 18th birthday when I found out the truth, I wasn't angry? I was relieved, actually. I was so glad I didn't have to keep pretending. I didn't have to hide how possessive I am, and how obsessed I've always been with you. That was the moment I decided I'd marry you. And I've been preparing for it ever since." Suddenly, I remembered the people in the audience who had praised how perfect we looked together. Noticing my reaction, he smirked slightly, his voice tinged with mischief. "Yeah, that was me. I planted that, started dropping little hints everywhere, and fed the idea to people, to the press, and to the world. So when this day finally came, it wouldn't be a surprise. It would feel inevitable." I felt deeply moved, and yet couldn't help but laugh. "So you were the one acting all along?" Lance slid his arms around me from behind, his lips brushing the shell of my ear. "Pearl," he murmured, his voice warm and heavy. "I finally get to protect you this time." Laced my fingers through his, feeling the steady beat of his heart against my back. And with my whole chest, full of peace and love, I whispered, "Yeah. You do." The end. And that's a wrap on today's reading here at Booked for Drama. If you felt anything, rage, swoon, secondhand heartbreak, let me know in the comments. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share with your fellow drama lovers. If you have any requests, drop them in the comments. Until next time, keep reading, and keep the drama on the page.